At Dave Cooper Live, we connect the industry leaders in the architectural, engineering, and construction space with the people, the products, and the processes to help them build it better. All right, everybody, we are in Long Beach, California at the International Code Council's annual conference and hearings. And standing next to me is Jonathan Pauly, CEO and co-founder of Clever Tiny Homes. But first, we have to have a few words from our supporting members, and then we're going to come right back to you. CombiLift is the largest global manufacturer of multi-directional forklifts and straddle carriers, a leader in long load handling solutions, offering a free warehouse and site optimization design service. CombiLift helps companies of all sizes and from every industry maximize the capacity, safety, and efficiency of their warehouse and storage facilities. A big thank you to Paul Short and the team at CombiLift for helping us all to build it better. Visit them at combilift.com. Ready to scale up your offsite construction business? Introducing 4A Constructs, your solution to finding skilled labor for offsite manufacturing. Say goodbye to the headache of recruiting a skilled workforce with hand-selected certified tradesmen that are expertly trained and managed for offsite manufacturing, set crews, and finish crews, ensuring maximum productivity and safety. Unlock the future of skilled workforce development for all of your offsite construction needs. Visit them at 4aconstructs.com. All right, everybody, again, thank you to all of our supporting members. We cannot continue to bring you all of these informative conversations with the leaders of our industry to help us all build it better. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for being in one of our Clever One units here to do this.
I love it. I love it. And I got green glasses on because everybody's wearing green glasses at the show today because it was part of the keynote. Thanks to our good friend Greg Ugaldi, brought us a pair. But that's not what we're here to talk about right now. We're here to talk about why you're at this show. But first, let's hear a little bit about who you are, your background, and what got you into this industry.
Sure. So, Clever Tiny Homes, we're focused on building what we call attainable housing, high quality homes that everyone can afford. We're short 7-10 million homes in the U.S. Yeah. The only way we're going to do that is by thinking differently about how we build homes and how we design them as well. And so we're focused on what we call small residential units, right? These are homes that are very livable, as we'll show here. Everything you need, they're very comfortable, they're very spacious, but they're maybe not 3,000 square feet or even 2,000 square feet, right? We're doing homes that have a smaller footprint and allow us to build a home that anyone can buy, anyone can to do, and doing that in a factory using industrialized construction where we can use all those factory things to bring the cost down.
What is your background? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously nobody just wakes up and says, we're going to start a tiny home company and do this. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's two companies here, right?
Yes. Well, there's a few things we're doing when we talk about that. But to get to the background, kind of how we got into this, it was something that myself and my partners were looking at, this question of how do we build more housing in the U.S. And at some point we realized we had a unique combination of skills to make that happen. So my background is in high volume products. I ran previously a medical device company that built FDA cleared medical devices that was saving lives. We built 2 products that were sold in Apple stores globally on the shelves there. I spent a lot of time in Asian manufacturing, all that. So really, how do you build products, Silicon Valley products? I've spent most of my life in the tech world in Silicon Valley. That's where I came from. Another partner in our business, Didi Zhao, she used to run and still does one of the top architecture firms in Asia. So she was on the core design team of the Beijing Olympic Convention Center, of the Venetian Casino Macau, of the new Universal Studios that just opened in Beijing. She's, I think, designed, we calculated $1 trillion worth of buildings. So really high level architecture. And we would spend a lot of time, the two of us, over the last decade and a half, talking about these two worlds. This world that I came from, which was this product world and this industrialized manufacturing world, and the architecture, construction world, and how we can put those two together. And then our last part, ASA, came from a world of sustainable production and sustainable manufacturing. And so we put those together to create Clever Builds.
So what we're seeing in this industry currently is folks like yourself that are coming from outside the industry, at least when it comes to manufacturing houses, and not just coming in and saying, hey, we can do this better. We can productize it, right?
Yeah.
And we can add high design. I will tell you, out of ADUs that I have been in, the design in this ADU is so clean, crisp. Even what you have on the walls is like far none what I've seen on anybody else's ADUs or tiny homes.
We appreciate that. Well, I'll address that first because one of the things when we talk about productization, what we really mean is that you're not doing a custom home every single time, right?
Yeah.
Apple invests a ton of money into building an iPhone and then manufactures millions of them. What that allows you to do is allows you to effectively spread out the cost of design and manufacturing and tooling across a lot of units, which brings down the cost. So we talk about the design of this. Didi, who designed this, in a traditional architecture firm, she's not waking up for less than $1 million with a big project, right? You can't do that if you're building $50,000, $100,000 homes. But if you take that product approach, you can put that level of attention to detail and design into it. And so it's about thinking different around the business model a little bit that enables that. But I will say it's also really important, you talk about, yes, in some ways I come from outside the construction industry, but you have to combine people with deep knowledge of the construction industry as well. I think the purely just trying to innovate model doesn't work. It's about taking the best of different worlds and bringing it together, right? On our team, we've got people with decades and decades of experience in construction. And that's super important that they're a part of that process as well.
Let's talk about the manufacturing side of this. You went from 55,000 to 85,000 in a very short amount of time. Your labor workforce went from a small workforce to a fairly large workforce in a small amount of time. Talk to us about when did you launch this? Walk me through your life cycle of where you are today from when you started.
Yeah, actually, on Friday of this week, we're at the factory having our party to celebrate the first unit shipped 1 year ago. So it's been 1 year, but in that year, we've gone from 0 to 120 people, 85,000 square feet. We're currently shipping a home every other day out of our factory. We've shipped over 100 homes in the last handful of months, six months, and we're continuing to grow.
100 homes in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
That is amazing. So tell me, where's your factory and where are you shipping to?
Yeah, well, we ship, great question. The factory is in Ensenada, which is in Baja California, Mexico. It's a little bit south of San Diego. So we tap into a very skilled labor pool there. And all built with U.S. construction standards, to be clear, and U.S. materials. And then we ship all over the country. So we have a couple different ways we certify these that allow them to go into different areas, right? So as a tiny house on wheels, currently, the way those get certified is a park model RV. Now, it's built nothing like an RV, but that's the only
this
standard.
Is not built like an RV.
No, but
I lived in one for a year and a half traveling. So.
Yeah, but that's the only standard that exists for kind of that movable type of home today. That's changing. The ICC is doing a lot of great work on that. So those we can ship all over, and we've shipped them from quite literally Hawaii to Maine to Florida to Alaska. We've got units into all those corners of California. We are currently launching the modular certified version of these. Initially, California will be adding more states. What modular certified? Well, I think your audience knows what modular certified means. That doesn't mean so. For our factories, there's no difference.
Right.
It's the same thing, same process we're following. Different sticker, obviously. A few little things to make it Title 24 for California building codes. We still build it on the chassis of the trailer, but that chassis is engineered to structurally be a part of the building. So once it gets on site, you unbolt the axles, and now you just have a modular certified structure.
Just to be clear, the way the home is built today, when it goes to modular certification,
is no different.
Nothing's changing other than there's just no wheels on it.
Yeah, well, actually, we still build it with the wheels to transport it, and then once it gets to site, you literally unbolt. There's like 6 bolts that take off the axles, and then that's it.
Tell me about the construction of the home. Is it cold form steel? Is it wood? Walk us through how you're constructing these and get into the energy efficiencies of it.
That's a great question. We're taking the approach of being innovative in terms of how we think about the factory and sales and design of the home, but not being innovative on terms of how we build it. And so what I mean by that is, this is standard wood frame construction, 90-some% of houses in the U.S. are built, and it's all high quality materials, hardy panel on the siding. It's drywall, all the PEX, all the things that go into, I think, most high quality homes that are built in America. And customers like that because they know they're getting a home that's repairable, that's just like a normal home, other than it's being built in a factory and it's being built on that trailer chassis, so it's very low cost for us to move it from that factory into that location it's going to be.
Can anybody come and pick up these homes? You need a CDL? How does it work?
You do need a CDL, and our prices actually include delivery, by and large. So we bake that in, so from a customer's perspective, it's delivered to their things, and we have a transportation network to make that happen.
The high design part of this I think is really important to talk about. I mean, I am not seeing sheetrock. I'm seeing no sheetrock return. I mean, I can't even explain it. You have F channel going around all the doors. It's high design. It's what you'd see in a very modern contemporary home.
Yeah.
Even around the windows, we're not seeing trim and angled corners. It is so clean and neat. And to include, you have ERV systems in here. You have mini splits in here. Super efficient. Talk me through it.
Well, I think first it starts from, as a company, what's your values, what's your ethos, right? And our value is, we're creating attainable housing, right? Stuff that's affordable. But we don't think affordable has to mean cheap. Yeah. Right? And so it's about creating houses that, as you said, have high design in it, also that have durability. Yeah. Right, that are going to last generations. Because for most of customers who are buying this, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 investment, that's a lot of money, and they're choosing these over cheaper housing alternatives because this is going to be an appreciating asset. Right, it's going to be something that's financially sound.
Say that again. It's going to be an appreciating asset, not like a typical trailer or a motor home or anything like that.
That's the core difference.
It gains value.
Exactly. Whether it's on wheels, whether it's modular installed on foundation, you're getting something that is going to be it is as good as a home that home builders build, right? And that's super important. And then trying to bring that modern design. I don't think that's something that you've seen in this space as much, that really elevated design, those kind of design details. And I'll go back to the factory bit, because a lot of these design details is where the factory, you really get the benefits of being in a controlled factory environment. And that's the thing. That kind of high-end carpentry, that kind of attention to detail is a lot harder and a lot more expensive to do on a job site, right? To get that kind of highly skilled labor onto a job site and that kind of quality control. But when you do it in a factory, where you have jigs and you have tooling and you have QA people, it becomes a lot easier and a lot more cost effective to do that kind of high.
I say it all the time, and I quote Jerry McCaughey all the time. And he always said you can't cut a 2x4 across the toe of your boot on a job site 1,000 times exactly the same way over and over, but you can in a manufacturing environment.
Exactly.
We have a lack of skilled labor out there, but this helps control the labor force, train the labor force, and you get repetitiveness to where they become masters at what they're doing.
Right. Yeah, and that's a lot of the advantage of, we don't do one-off custom builds, right? Everything's got to be in volume, and that's so we can bring in guys, train them on our process, our way of doing things, exactly how this gets built. Yeah. And you're able to raise someone's skill level much, much more quickly because of that repetitive nature. And I don't want to say repetitive, this is not, we're still hiring skilled people, we're still paying well. It's not like assembly line putting together a piece of electronics, right? But there's a certain level of repetition that's important for training.
What's your biggest regulatory hurdle that you're dealing with, that not just yourself, but anybody that's in this market, whether it's ADUs, tiny homes, park model, homes?
Yeah. Well, I think there's two parts that I'll talk about. Let me start with one, kind of the building code side of it, and then I want to talk about the land and zoning side of it. So on the building code side of it, the first and foremost is tiny homes. So we have kind of two businesses. Clever Tiny Homes is our consumer brand that we sell direct to consumers, and we have Clever Builds, which is our development group. We use Clever Tiny Homes because that's what people are searching on Google. That's what they know. Unfortunately, tiny homes, and I think you have a very educated audience watching this, has no legal code definition whatsoever. Internally, we use small residential unit because that's going to become a part of the code soon. And so, one, you have this problem that tiny homes is everything from these highly illegal, totally not inspected structures made in China that are getting imported and sold on Amazon, right, to shipping containers to everything. And so while it's what consumers know because of Tiny House Nation and these TV shows, it doesn't really mean anything. And so then you have a real big challenge of taking someone who wants one of our homes, they're talking about as a tiny home, they're trying to put on a piece of land. How do you get the local jurisdiction to understand it? No one's talking the same language, right? Yeah. Now, part of that is why do we certify these in different ways, both as a park model RV as well as modular? It's to give customers flexibility. Okay, you have this piece of land, we're able to do, you're trying to put it in a park, great, you can go in RV direction. You're trying to put it as an ADU in California, great, we can do it as modular, right? And so that's something, but it's very confusing for consumers and everyone involved.
John, I mean, it's confusing for me. Right. I mean, the only difference is taking off the wheels. Yeah. That's the only difference, but yet they make it it's very hard. And of course,
and the ICC, for those following, is doing good work on trying to change this. So it's really exciting to see what's happening. That's one. The other thing I'll talk about is zoning and land, right? Because, we get thousands and thousands of people to our consumer website every day, clevertinyhomes.com, where we sell in direct. And 90% of them, they're looking for a home like this, but they don't have land. They're looking for a home plus land, as we call it, which in most of the traditional is just a home, because usually the home is on land. Sure. But in our case, because it's built separately, it's a bit separate. And so they're out there looking at empty lands, whatever. But the problem is that in so many areas, when you talk about zoning, your primary resident has to be 1,200 square feet or 800, and that's not where the market is. It's not where consumers are looking, right? And so there's a whole nother challenge that we're working on how do you create developments. That's what we're doing with Clever Builds. Developments of these, because this is what people want to live in today, right? Now, California has passed some new laws. SB 684, SB 1123 just passed last month. That is enabling us to go out, take plots, and put these smaller units on it. And that's really exciting, too, as people start thinking differently about this minimum square footage.
Well, and again, people are focused on these styles of homes, size of homes. One, because, the average cost of a home is, $400,000 or $500,000 across the country now.
Yeah, and if you're in California, that's
right. And if you're on the coast,
800,000.
Same on the East Coast, same in Pittsburgh and elsewhere.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work, but the code doesn't adjust for subdevelopments of homes that are in that 400 square feet or less, is what I'm hearing you say.
Exactly.
And that's causing an issue.
I think the thing that is hard to see on camera and definitely check out is, this home we're in is 400 square feet, but it's very, very livable.
Oh, it's very
spacious. Most people walk in and think this is 800 square feet. Yeah. There's a lot you can do on the design side and rethinking the design to make a smaller space very, very livable, particularly as we live in a more digital age. We have less things. More of our life is, on our computer, on our iPad, on our phone. And that's a big thing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It really is. And financing these, we've talked about finance. We've talked about manufacturing and how do you get consistent flow through the manufacturing floor.
Right.
You're taking a different approach than a lot of other people are taking, and I think let's have that conversation.
Sure, yeah. So the reason we have both a development arm and a consumer arm is we basically built up our consumer arm, our Tiny House on Wheels arm and brand so that it can cover our factory overhead. So I think one of the challenges you've seen in modular construction and modular factories that development is by nature a very spiky kind of business, right? Or process, should we say, is you have various players that are going to delay things, right? Factories have to have consistency. Factories have to have consistent process. You have to make sure that factory is consistently utilizing your purchasing team, your QA team, your production leaders, all that thing. You have to have consistent throughput to have a good factory, a financially sound factory. And so what we've done as a business model is built our direct-to-consumer business to cover that, right? And that direct-to-consumer is selling ADUs, selling tiny houses on wheels, so that now we're able to work with developers, landowners on bigger projects, and they can come to us and say, is this factory going to be here tomorrow? Yes, it is, because the factory is financially sound based off that consumer business, and we can layer in these more spiky things. And guess what? If the development gets delayed a month or two or whatever, that's fine. We're not sitting idling our thumbs with that. And that's been a real struggle, I think, in the modular industry. Is how do you keep that consistent throughput? And that's
how do you
that's our secret, which maybe I should have shared publicly, but
that's all right.
Now it's out there.
But so how do you share the line with something like that? Let's say you have 30 single family consumer based models, but then you have a developer and says, listen, I need 200 of these next month. How does that ebb and flow with the lines in the factory?
I mean, it's a scheduling, looking at looking what that developer needs, looking at how much they're willing to pay for it. So we do we have larger projects we do and say, hey, if we can sprinkle this out, we'll give you more of a discount, right? Because it's a win-win, right? So there's ways you can kind of schedule line and time and stuff like that to do it. One of the things that we really focus on is consistency of materials and processes. So we limit, as we're doing those kind of development things, how much we change. Particularly around materials and process. That's where we're getting the cost savings. That's where we're getting the volume. Changing the floor plan to do 10 or 20 or 50 units of different floor, that's not hard. But once you start changing the materials, that's where you really lose the efficiencies of scale that we're getting. Because a lot of our model is going, out working direct with the material manufacturers, buying full truckloads, containerfuls of all the materials you see here, so we can bring those costs down and create consistency in the factory.
The assembly line in the factory, and it is an assembly line because you are doing subcomponents and then bringing it to the line. So you have a couple different assembly things happening, so it all fills the mainstream line that's building these. Yes.
Yeah, we're not doing right now. We're not doing your traditional auto line where the finished unit moves through the line. But we've taken the approach, at least for now, is to do what we call a componentized approach. So we have final assembly bays, but then we do as much as we can in components elsewhere that gets moved into the assembly bays and kind of put together as a final assembly. We may move to a line, but where we see, and again, we've built, to step back, we've built an entire custom, talking about my Silicon Valley background, custom software system, end-to-end ERP, just for a modular factory, 100,000 lines of code that is all designed around what's needed here for us to understand material costs, production time costs, where labor's going, where stuff's going, and we're using that data to continuously optimize how we componentize things and how we, where we invest in tooling and stuff like that. I'll give you a counter example. I think we hear this all the time as and we don't have any investors in the company, but as we talk to financial folks in space, they're talking about, let's get some robots to do framing, right? It ends up framing as a percentage of labor costs is a very, very, very small cost. With templates and the right systems and infrastructure set up and tooling, you can have humans framing very, very quickly, right?
You can.
And even though it's sexy to robots, we don't, that's not where robotics makes sense, right? You start looking at things like running electrical, right? Or aspects of plumbing or some of the finished carpentry, stuff like that. That's where your time and cost and material wastage comes in. So we look at and analyze that data and try to understand where does it make sense to invest in that automation and tooling and use data to drive the factory improvement, basically.
I want to go back to, you said you guys have written your own ERP system end to end, and that's a big struggle in this industry, especially when you have to have DFMA in there if you do have a more automated line and process. But because you productize what you're offering, you've been able to keep your SKUs very low, right? Which helps you have a repeatable process.
Exactly.
End to end, is that from the customer picking what color they want, or walk me through what end to end means?
Yeah. Well, I'll first say customers don't get to choose what color they want. It comes in. Your choice is this color. Yeah. That's part of how we keep.
And you're selling hundreds
consistency
already. Yeah.
But yes, the ERP systems. So exactly what you said. When we started this, and I've been developing software since I was 12 years old. I've spent my whole life doing software. I looked at what was out there and said, this isn't going to get us where we want to go. Right. We've got to develop something in-house. And so, we develop something totally in-house. It is end-to-end. It starts with that customer signing the order. They get put into ERP. They get access to the ERP where they have a portal where they can track their build process through it. So customers love that because they're getting transparency in terms of what's going on, where their build is. We do have some options, like do you want to add an oven or a dishwasher or stuff like that. So add that. And then it tracks that all the way through the production process. Our purchasing team's able to see our, materials, what materials are needed, projections. And that's super important too for us working with suppliers. Suppliers know we're going to buy the same thing over and over and over again. Right. And so they know Clever Builds is getting this.
And you know your cost because you are buying the same thing.
You know your cost, and obviously we get leverage saying, hey, we're buying the same thing over and over. What can you do cost-wise?
Sure.
And that if you're constantly changing stuff, you can't. It doesn't work. That conversation doesn't work.
What's been your biggest hurdle with expanding your factory so quickly?
I think we've fortunately haven't had any huge hurdles. Yeah. Obviously, we're really trying to create a culture at the company where we grow leaders from within, right? And so, floor leaders and team leaders and all that kind of stuff. So putting that structure in place is that, definitely we've got a lot of guys with deep experience, and we hire intentionally in traditional construction, right? Creating that merger of cultures between really valuing the skills and trades, but also the kind of factory rigor that comes with it is an interesting intersection of two cultures that we're putting together. And I say continuously, I think we've done a good job at continuously improving on is certainly part of it. And then, another part is just navigating. You talked about like the code side, like on the modular side, having conversations with Plan Check and how we do the plans and our, the engineers of, hey, we want to have one plan that can work in as many places as possible. That's normally not how folks are thinking. And so thinking through that has been an interesting exercise as well. Yeah,
well, I bet it is. And a lot of people are so afraid to not give consumers a lot of options. Right. But as you're seeing with this, because it is such high design, this is like coming into like a really high-end hotel or resort, and you're just like, oh my goodness, this is amazing.
What I'd say, and again, not to give away our secrets, but
give away your secrets.
If you don't give people options, you have to give consumers something. Consumers are smart. Treat consumers as smart, right? Particularly in today's world. People can go online and do their research, and they do. And that's like we publish a lot of YouTube videos talking about our build quality and things we do. And that's been a key selling point is that we're very transparent about what's in our walls and how we do that. People really appreciate that. Yep. But to go back to options, what we're able to explain to our customers and what they're able to see in the market is that they're getting unquestioned value.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe this isn't exactly the color you want. You can always go paint it a different color or whatever. It doesn't cost much. But what you're getting is unmatched value. We're not the cheapest in the market. We're not the most expensive, but the value for cost is going to be unmatched, and consumers make that. The model, flat out, for anyone watching this, any developers watching this, we are aiming to be the Costco of modular construction, right? And if you think about Costco, what does Costco do great at? First of all, you don't have selection. You go in, there's one thing of nuts. There's one thing of whatever. Yeah. They buy in bulk, right? Yeah. And you go into Costco, are you getting the highest end? No. Are you getting the lowest end? No. You're getting unquestioned value from there. And that's what we think there's a real room for in the housing market, and that's what we're
Talk to me about your distribution model. How is this going to grow? Are you going to have factories all over the place and own the factories? Are you going to work through distributors? How is this going to happen?
Yeah, that's something we're continuing to evolve and continue to honestly have questions about. And as your audience wants to reach out to me, please do and talk about it. Obviously, there's elements of construction and building houses that's highly local. Right. And so you have to work with folks who understand that on-the-ground local reality. And so we're always looking to build partnerships around that. Obviously, yes, growing the factory. We think there's a lot you can do in this space as we continue to grow around supply chain optimization, both in terms of sourcing materials, but also where you build what in what locations, if that makes sense.
It does.
And so we've got exciting plans around that as we continue to grow. And then, we're not doing the maybe what we'd call like super traditional model that people think of from like a Clayton kind of.
Sure.
We're not a HUD home. That's not our model, right? We want to make sure. Again, going back to that consumer, that home buyer. If you look outside of the housing industry, if you look at other industries, the trend over the last 10 years in the consumer world has been consumers having a more direct relationship with the brand they're buying from. And so that doesn't necessarily mean they're buying from us, but we're not going to do white label stuff because it's important people know this is who's building it and understand the values behind the company and what that, because that's what people want. If you look at successful brands outside of construction, that's what they've done. And we think that's coming to housing as well.
So this is the International Code Council's annual conference and webinar, and we sat on a panel yesterday together. Which was
and thank you for doing a great job hosting that.
Moderating. Yeah, I've done it a couple times.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest takeaway was how many building inspectors are here that truly just don't understand it yet, and it's a chance to educate them. What is the value do you find for your company here and yourself with all these building officials from all over the country, to include fire marshals and everybody else?
Well, I think first and foremost, we came in support of the Tiny House Industry Association, and that goal as an industry association is to help building inspectors understand, hey, you can have a house that is built on a trailer chassis for transportation purposes. Right. That's a high quality home, right? Well, you were in our home yesterday, and what people kept coming in and going, oh wow, they see wheels and they think. Trailer home, right? They think low quality and then they come in and go, oh wait, you can do good quality construction. It's fun. It's fun for me having building inspectors in because they're out here like this is not what normal people do. I should stay on camera, but and so first and foremost, we're trying to help. Consumers are there, the home buyers are there, but helping developers and building inspectors understand, that's what's going on. Because we do have that when we apply for permits or whatever, and someone goes, well, wait a second, looks like there's supposed to be a wheel here. Isn't this a HUD home, right? And you're like, no. This is a modular home. This is built to your building codes. But what about we take off the wheels and forget about them, right? And so there's an education part. The other thing about great out beaners is a lot of really smart, like yourself, great conversations that we're having here. Like Greg is behind the camera here, and others. The president of the ICC was in here, and I spent half an hour jamming with him on WUI stuff and how we optimize that because he was part of that council. So a lot of great conversations because a lot of what we're trying to do is continue to innovate. Again, build homes that are within how we understand how to build homes. We're not trying to reinvent how we build homes, but can we be smarter about it? Can we be really thoughtful about it?
More efficient about it, sustainable about it, and energy and eco-friendly.
Exactly.
Jonathan, is there anything that I didn't mention or didn't ask you that maybe you feel is important for everybody out there?
So, clevertinyhomes.com is our consumer website and brand. You can check that out. The modular stuff is not public on the website yet. That's something we're kind of soft launching, so you're one of the first to hear about it.
Heard it here on Dave Cooper Live.
On here. Clever-builds.com is our development group that's working with developers to do developments of these. You can check out both of those. Feel free to email me, Jonathan@clevertinyhomes.com or Jonathan@clever-builds.com. Always looking to connect to smart people doing doing interesting things.
I love
in
it.
this space.
And for the rest of you out there, we are going live again today at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to walk through the trade show floor. I think you're all going to be very impressed with who is here and how many vendors are here. This has been a great event, and I highly recommend if you're in the offsite community, you need to be here having these conversations, because these are the people that make or break you in the field, right? The building code officials, and they really want to hear from you and they want to learn from you. And the International Code Council is putting their best foot forward and inviting all of you to come here. So everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm Dave Cooper. Jonathan.
Thanks for having me here.
I love it. And make sure you check out Clever Tiny Homes. You're going to be very surprised when you walk in one of these. I guarantee it. Thanks for watching.